Hey, John. It's time for another episode of Eat Sleep Code, the official Telerik podcast. How are you doing, John?
I'm well. I'm well. I hope everyone out there is doing great. I've been really busy. I assume you've been busy as well.
I actually have a good link in here we'll get to in a minute that has to do with the holidays. And we'll also be streaming next week. Let me look at my calendar and get the date. It is, I think, next Friday, December 9th. Yes, December 9th. We're doing an all-day charity stream on this channel. So
Nice.
we're doing the annual Progress Thankmas, and we're trying to raise money for a very good cause, which I need to catch myself up on so I can let everybody know what that cause is. But I guarantee you it's something good that the team picked out.
You're losing
Um,
me. You're losing me.
I know I'm terrible at this. Next week, we're going to have some
Okay.
friends on to chat with us, and it's going to be very lighthearted this year. We tried to do like little project things before, and it's really hard to get everybody at this time of year, like you said, focused on like coding a like live project on stream. So we're doing
Yep.
more of a casual, just chatting type of a show for the day, and I think it'll be a lot of fun because we have just some really entertaining folks, not only on the team, but we hang out with some fun people too. So we'll be doing that.
Okay.
We've been doing this show
Sure.
for a while, and I have yet to like put the links for the show in a good place and share them with everybody. So I figured I'd just throw them on this LinkedIn feature that I found, where you can do a what is it called, a newsletter. So I put the
Ah,
newsletter together very quickly, and folks can jump on that link there. It should take you to the page, and you can follow along at home or share it with your friends. But
very
first
nice.
up, we will start. I probably should share a screen when I say first up. uh, this is a link that you shared, John. Um,
Yeah.
this is Redefined GitHub.
Refined GitHub, not
Oh, sorry,
redefined.
Refined.
Refined. So like
I'm
like a
reading.
fine wine,
Yes.
sort of thing. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the resource repo for a browser extension that makes the GitHub interface a little bit better. Everyone loves GitHub, everyone uses GitHub,
Mhm.
but there are some nuances to the UI that could be, let's say, a little bit better. And so what this browser extension does when you install it is it redraws parts and pieces of the GitHub UI so that you can get some better or more nuanced capabilities. So if you scroll down, they show some screenshots. So
I was going to
give you an
say, there
example.
it is. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So that are the highlights. So showing white space, adding one-click merge conflict fixers, reaction avatars, things like this. This is what the extension does. It just basically
Hmm.
rewrites a little bit of the HTML and JavaScript to make it a little bit nicer to look at. So it's a browser extension, which means you can uninstall it at any time. It doesn't really change too much. But this is the source code repository if you're all interested, and these are all the commands and features that it has. So this is something that some folks like to use, and something I would encourage you to check out if you find yourself frustrated with the GitHub UI.
So is this a GitHub sponsored thing, or is this like just a
This is
community
an open source
activity?
project from community.
I wonder if GitHub is watching this and taking notes on like what, you know, these may be features down the road type of thing. Like this happens
Well,
with other
there,
stuff. Like you see specs get created around some of the libraries and things we created for the web. So like CSS and Sass, for example, like some of the Sass stuff gets kind of prototyped there and like brought into CSS eventually, that type of thing.
yeah. The reason why I like this is because I always like to say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but a demo's worth 1,000 pictures. And so if you install this and you like the way it works and the folks at GitHub see it and they think, yeah, that's actually a
Mm-hmm.
really good idea, then I guess the intent there is that eventually we'll get incorporated into the main UI. This is
Yeah,
sort of like PhoneGap, but for the UI for GitHub.
I think Windows Power Tools does something similar. Like people create these power tools, and it's kind of an open source project, and like the Windows
Yep,
folks poach things out of there every once in a while that get really popular.
100%, 100%.
Um, GitHub Next.
This is GitHubNext.com. GitHub Next is an interesting project. So to your point earlier about is this a GitHub project? Are they experiment with features, etc.? Well, if you want,
Mm-hmm.
you can actually check out GitHub Next. So GitHub Next is a GitHub-owned project solution for experiments and prototypes that they're working on. So there are some examples there that you may have seen announced at Universe, which was just earlier last month.
Mm-hmm.
And so these and other capabilities that they talk about that they're experimenting with, these are all things that are prototyped through GitHub Next. Excuse me. So GitHub Next is GitHubNext.com is a site to check those things out, to sign up for waitlists, etc. And this is basically like sort of like a public feature flag. If you want to get involved in some of these projects and check them out, these are some of the things that they're looking at in terms of capability. So this is a sort of a skunkworks team at GitHub, and they're working on these capabilities and getting feedback from folks as they're using them.
So I'm geeking out to the radial menu here. I always wondered why we didn't use these more often. I've seen back in the day, I think it was a light version of 3ds Max. It was called oh shoot, I'm gonna butcher the name of it now. Gmax? Yeah, Gmax. And it had these really great radial style menus, like you hover over the item, and instead of like these nested like trees that we're used to, it would fan things out so you could see everything at once, and like you're in the center of the menu already. So everything is a quick, left, right, up, down, away from you, instead of like I got to go here and then drop down and here, drop down here, drop down. Anyway, that's my shiny object for the day. I'm only entitled to one of those, John.
I know, same. Get too distracted.
AI solves the advent of code 2022.
Yeah, so we're in an interesting point. We're at an interesting time right now. So OpenAI is an organization that is looking at machine learning and models and trying to drive the state of the art forward. And they recently talked about something which we'll talk about called Chat GPT. But GPT is sort of a generalized text algorithm for machine learning models, and people are utilizing it to try and target code challenges, etc. And so this is a blog post where basically GPT chat was announced a few days ago, where you could ask questions through a chat, which is at chat.openai.com, and basically use this to try and solve some coding challenges. So the advent of code started, and this person thought it might be fun to try and utilize AI to solve some of the problems. So this is the experiment that they're running through currently, because the advent of code is currently on.
Interesting. Yeah, this is really cool.
Cheating.
Yeah, is it cheating though? So this is how I made it through college.
Yes.
So I went to school for electronics engineering, and we had to learn all of these complex algorithms for solving load drops and resistors and resistors in circuit and current usage and stuff like that. And you could try to memorize those things, but that's not really what humans do well. So instead, I wrote programs into my TI-83 calculator. And then when it came down to exam time, like the program would come up and it would say, what is the resistor at R1? It's kind of a menu, like, what are you solving for? Resistance, voltage, AC, DC, whatever. And basically I'd plug in the numbers and it would pick the formula and drop the answer to me. And I kind of bailed out of that exam in about 15 minutes. And it was supposed to take about 2 hours. And nobody was the wiser. So is that cheating, John? If I wrote the program, it taught me the algorithm.
Well, the interface is it isn't, but you're misinterpreting the fact that the person who wrote the UI asked questions which made it seem intelligent, like what is the voltage, etc., as a question. But yeah, I don't think it's cheating. I think it's no different than in a calculator if you punch values in. So
yeah, I basically had to learn all the algorithms so I could write the program into the calculator. So I was using like VB, TI VB or something like that. There's like actually a specific VB build for the TI-83 calculator. And then I had a program on my computer that I wrote that like I actually hacked a cable that you plugged into the calculator like through a headphone jack, and it patched into a serial cable on the other end. You plug that into the computer, you write your code, and then it would upload it. So, like, uh, yeah, yeah. Ohm's law was one of them. There was many others, many others. Like this was
So
pretty
interestingly
advanced
enough,
stuff.
I'll tell you a little story about the stock exchange in Chicago, which is for so the history around automated trading, which is now the thing. You got all these algorithms
Hmm.
that just fire off based on news results, etc. Um, Back in the day, the exchange, I think it's the commodities exchange in Chicago, did not allow you to automate back in the day when computers were a thing back in the early 80s or even the 70s. And so what they did was they said, okay, fine, what we'll do is they said you have to enter your orders in, stock orders in, through a keyboard. They're like, fine. So what they did was they sent commands to automate the robotic pushing of keyboard buttons into a keyboard. But
There you
they
go.
they automated that section of it. They just injected the ones and zeros into the line that fed the robotic arm into the keyboard to automate that
Good
part
old
of it.
keyboard
So
wedge. Yeah,
correct.
there you go. It's not cheating. So they used AI, and there was a discussion online using this GPT chat functionality, John.
Yeah, so GPT is basically a general language processor for this technology called well, it's for a group called OpenAI. GPT
Hmm.
stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, and I think we're getting close to version 4. We've talked about this before on the show, where GPT-3 came out, and they were generating a whole bunch of things. So what they launched recently was Chat GPT, and so if you visit chat.openai.com, this is a sort of interface where you can pose questions through a chat bot, and it will respond in kind based on the based on the machine learning model that it has. And so people on Twitter started asking it all kinds of interesting questions, and I've included a couple of examples in our list here. So this was the announcement by Sam Altman, but the other ones list things like how do you do X, how do you do Y. One example I saw is someone wanted the chatbot to create a Seinfeld episode script that would have Jerry learning the bubble sort algorithm. So these and other types of really interesting examples are all on Twitter at the moment. So if you search for Chat GPT on Twitter, you'll see all kinds of examples of creative ways in which people are messing with machine learning in programming contexts.
Sorry, I was trying to clear the sidebars off so we could focus on the
Oh,
content
okay.
here. There's some
Yeah.
mildly inappropriate things trending right now, so I was
Oh,
trying to
okay.
get that off screen. Um,
No worries.
so apologize for that. Trying to follow along here. So there's some fun things that people were doing with this.
Yeah, so the example is find the bug with this code. So a for loop that goes from 0 to less than 5, set timeout, console log. So every second, output the value of I. And so the Chat GPT responded, this code contains a bug that will cause it to print the number 5 to the console rather than the expected sequence of numbers from 0 to 4. This is because of blah, 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 blah. So that's an example, a very simple example of
Mhm.
what's on Twitter for this. So another example is this person named Riley. So Chat explains the fact that the worst case time for bubble sort, but in the form of a fast talking wise guy from a 1940s gangster movie. So, all right, pal, listen up. The bubble sort algorithm. She's a real simple one, but the worst case time for complexity, that's a whole nother story. And so you can see a guy wearing a fedora, and so this has been generated by basically GPT, and
Wow.
so it's just kind of interesting to see some other examples. And then Riley posted yet another example of, write a complete script of a Seinfeld scene in which Jerry needs to learn the bubble sort algorithm, include frequent jokes, and note audience laughter in the script. So Jerry's sitting at a counter with George. I can't believe I have to. What's the deal with bubble sort algorithm? Sort of thing. So it's a terrible impression, but you get the idea. So yeah. So this
This
is
is
this is the future, folks. This is the
quite
future of
amazing.
our
I mean, people are doing silly stuff here,
our
but it is quite amazing.
I nothing. Okay, so a little bit of a secret that I haven't really revealed only to my closest friends, but I don't know why. But they're okay. So I find low battery So I find machines that operate under low battery extremely hilarious. So this dates back to my 80s as a kid, where I would use Speak and Spell and all these other automated things that would voice generate stuff. And if we were
Hmm.
under low battery, they would just sound like this,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
it made it sound hilarious. So there's actually a subreddit called Low Battery. What is it? Low Battery something or other, and it's absolutely hysterical. Like it's absolutely hysterical to see machines operate under low battery scenarios. I think my new favorite thing is this, examples of, sorry, low battery sounds is the subreddit, for those who are curious. And so if you take a look, the sound of low battery is just hilarious to me. But this is quickly becoming my next favorite thing: is questions we ask machine learning models that are absolutely hysterical. So I think this will become my new thing.
Yeah, so kind of a poor segue here, but these were posted on Twitter. I am not personally on Twitter right now. There's reasons I won't go into for the show, but in the switching from Twitter to other things, I have been on LinkedIn a little bit more, which isn't something I normally would use, but I'm finding there's a lot of new features here. So I just want to drop a mention again on my personal page. I am pasting the links from today's show into a newsletter, so you can easily find those. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you can catch up with all of the links on the show there. And there's a nice little feature that LinkedIn has that I honestly didn't know about, called the weekly newsletter, and you could just spin this up in like a matter of minutes and have this going on
Nice.
your LinkedIn profile. So, when we kind of take a minute to get out of our normal habits, I was on Twitter quite often and didn't ever look at LinkedIn or other things. Now I'm over here looking at the grass; it's a little bit greener, and I've trying out some of the features here that I didn't know existed for a while.
I like
So
it.
that's where you'll find the show notes. If you guys like this, I guess subscribe. It says 16 subscribers already. I just made this like literally as the show started. So in the last 20 minutes, people have subscribed. That's very cool. And we'll try to publish these on there every show, which we normally do weekly. With the holidays coming up, we'll probably see a couple breaks here and there. But when the year comes back into full swing, we'll be back every week, we hope.
I like it.
One of the links that is on there is the C# Advent Calendar. This is the 2022 edition. I can make this full screen now. Another one of my beefs with Twitter was the sidebar where it's trending. You cannot control what that thing says. And there were things I didn't want streaming as we were talking.
Okay.
So I can go full screen here again and talk about the C# Advent Calendar. This is by Matt Groves. He works over at Couchbase, and every year for the last, I think it's been 5, maybe 6 years now. Doesn't say on here which annual one it is. Let's go back to the archive. Let's see. It started in 2017. So we've got, this will be the 6th year for the C# Advent Calendar. And every year, there are 50 articles that get posted. One posts every day till the holiday. And this week we've got David Pine. He's talking about hello from GitHub Actions with ASP.NET Core SDK. And then Andrew DePrezio, and he's got publishing NuGet packages with Nuke and Azure DevOps. So they're both DevOpsy articles, John, which I think you would really like. The first one
I'm just
here
looking
is
at this
by,
now. I'm curious about this. Yeah.
Yeah. David Pine's talking about these, and he's saying in the beginning here, like, you don't really need an SDK for all of this. You can do this with actual .NET, and you can interface right with GitHub Actions. And he goes over kind of the reasons why you should care.
I
What
know
are some of the
why. I
things
know
that you
why
can
you can do
use?
this. So traditionally GitHub Actions you would have to author using JavaScript because that was the SDK that they provided. However,
Mm-hmm.
the runners, which are the things that run your actions themselves, actually do host .NET Core and the Go runtime and other things, and you can bootstrap .NET Core through JavaScript and make your actions based on .NET, for example. So I would imagine that's what David's doing here.
Yeah, it looks like somebody's put together a nice NuGet package for doing this. So they've kind of put a little SDK together to make these things easier to do out of the box. So you can install that NuGet package and just get right to work hammering away at writing code to interface with GitHub Actions. So David Pine actually works over at Microsoft. He says in the post there that it is not an official Microsoft package, but
no, it is not.
That he's passionate and wrote about. He's a brilliant dev, by the way, so make sure you give him a follow. Check out his book, Learning Blazor. That's over on O'Reilly. We actually sponsored that from Progress. It's a fantastic book, so make sure you check him out. And then, John, you're really going to love this one. This is completely up your alley. Newer things to know about. Oops, I didn't open the right link. Let's go back.
Oh.
Let's see.
You got me all excited there, bud.
I know.
Can't do that.
Let's go back to the C# advent. It is C#.Christmas.
Nice. If
you nice vanity. I typed it in wrong. Oh, come on, Google, quit completing it for me.
Oh, CSAdvent.Christmas.
CSAdvent.Christmas. All right. So I had it slightly wrong. And then we'll go over to Andrew's article here, because this is definitely up your alley, John. So I didn't know what Nuke was until I read this, but Nuke is a build automation framework for .NET that lets you create build pipelines.
Yes, if you're not a fan of MS Build, you can use Cake, Nuke, all kinds of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So he goes over setting up Nuke, and building out a project, building a plan. It's a very detailed article here too, implementing your build steps, and he does it all within the Nuke framework here for .NET. So very, very good stuff.
We use Nuke and Cake within Octopus. We actually sponsor both projects on the Open Collective.
Your Azure DevOps.
So he's kicking off a workflow this way.
Known issues, and then he's talking about generators for YAML and that sort of thing. So another good read. So both of them DevOpsy this week. And then if we look back on the Advent calendar, Matt Groves, the guy that runs this, has done a fantastic job here of making this accessible to authors over the years. So it used to be kind of like an email list type of thing. He was like, try to collect, authors, anybody interested in doing this. And then he kind of opened it up to like, there's like a form and you come in and like claim your dates. And he's kind of semi-automated the way all this works. And it's really nice. You get like, as an author, like a reminder, your slot's coming up. Do you have the link ready? And then he added this nice little countdown, which I think is really cool. So these little presents open when the countdown expires, and then you can click on the links and get to the
I love it
there. So
that's awesome.
I recognize the name here. I've got one coming up on the 4th, which is my birthday. So I always try to pick my birthday every year, which gets me in a bind because it comes right after Thanksgiving. And I'm like, oh, between Thanksgiving and my birthday, now I've tasked myself to write an article. I never learned my lesson.
Everyone, just so you know, I always hated my friends who had birthdays around Christmas, because it's like, ugh, I gotta buy you a present and a Christmas gift.
Oh, like, see, it always worked the opposite way for me. It was always included. It's like, oh, that, by the way, that's your Christmas gift too. It's like, I know what you're doing here. I know, Mom, Dad, I know what you're doing. You're being cheap. Stop it.
Yes.
But it's kind of like my anniversary. It is 8 days after Valentine's Day. So I learned it from Mom and Dad. I learned it from watching you. If you remember that commercial from back in the day.
Yes.
So I'm not going to explain it. All right. So we've got great authors in here. Sam Basu's in there. Sarah Dukowitz is in there. Brendan Endrick, lots of great folks that I know, and they're fantastic authors of all sorts of content, written and video. Make sure you check that out. I came across this one this week on CSS Tricks. CSS Tricks, if you're not subscribed, you probably should be. They've always got good content up there. And you think you know something simple like an unordered or ordered list in HTML, and then somebody comes up with, well, things you didn't know about unordered lists. And apparently there is a menu list now, which I learned about. So I've known most of these, like unordered, ordered, descriptive lists, which a lot of people miss. They miss out on this one. This one is very useful. Don't see that one enough. Interactive lists or menus, I did not know about, so I have not used it.
Yes. I've seen people use these for hamburgers.
Yeah, and it's actually semantically correct to do that, which I didn't know, and I've always put them in one of these type of things, or a nav, which the author talks about. So yeah, you use the menu with the correct ARIA label on it, attribute. And then the list items belong with a button surrounding the content. So you can style those out however you like, but that is the appropriate semantics for writing those up, and I think that's really cool. So you think you know the basics, and then you learn. You don't.
It's so good. Don't worry.
Make a good segue this time. Learning. I think learning is a big thing that most of us should do over the holiday. Like that's kind of been my mode of operation for the last quite some time, like probably last 15 years, I'd say. Like I take my downtime on the holidays. Usually there's family visiting, maybe your in-laws are there and you're not so chatty with, not saying I don't get along with my in-laws, but it's time for maybe that side of the family to catch up, and I go in the other room and like watch videos or tinker with hobby projects and things. So that's my personal take on some of the holiday downtime. Yeah, Rocket Man's with me. I'm dancing over my words carefully there, but I linked here some really good videos that I was catching up on, and bookmarking for the holidays. And one of those is the keynote by Steve Sanderson at NDC Sydney. So this was done in your neck of the woods, John. So
it was
in Australia. This is a fantastic talk. Steve Sanderson is the creator of Blazor. He's got a lot of momentum recently about that. A lot of people probably don't know that he also wrote Knockout.js. And he's about as humble as they come, which you'll see if you watch the video, because he talks about Knockout.js, never once mentions that he actually made it, and then goes on to talk about somebody else's framework instead. So he does a review of like the history of the web technology and how we got to like the frameworks that we have today. And he even goes through the paces of getting the source code for the very first web server ever created and putting it in an emulation and running and rebuilding the code and running that code on an emulated machine. I can't remember what type of machine it was, but he runs it on. Watch the video, you can see it. And then he also builds the very first web browser ever, which was done on a Next machine. So he has an emulation of Next hardware, and he runs compiles and runs the browser on a Next machine. He's such a brilliant engineer, Steve, and he does a really good job of explaining kind of the nuts and bolts of these old web servers and browsers and the protocols and things that kind of built what we have today, and it's done extremely well. I can't say enough good things about it. Make sure you watch it. You will definitely enjoy it if you've ever touched any web development. This other one, so this sparked a conversation in our DevRel channel at work. And I was like, I really love this talk. I thought I'd share it with everybody here. And my coworker, Catherine, she said, this is one that I recently watched that I loved. And she posted, actually, sorry, this is not the right link, I think. It's the right link. It's the wrong video.
Okay. Oh, okay.
It's the wrong video. It like advanced to the next talk or something. There it is. So it played out while we were on the other slides, and then it went to the next video. So it had the right title, but the wrong video. So this is talking about a topic that I actually really like. And she's talking about writing more functional code. And she starts off with like talking about how she's started writing down these best practices for writing clean code, and then just realized she was writing the definitions of functional programming. So she got into like functional programming and then used that to write cleaner code. And she goes over all the paces of why you should try some functional stuff. It's a presentation that's done really well, and it's in the context of React if you're doing any of that stuff. So another great video to catch up on over the holidays. Make sure you bookmark that one.
Nice.
And then finally, Catherine also mentioned this one. We both saw Billy Hollis at DevReach, and it wasn't in a format. It is online, but it wasn't a format that I could easily share. So I found the same talk on YouTube at the NDC Minnesota conference. And this one's called Lies Developers Tell Themselves. And it talks about like how developers can't design, these are, again, lies you can't, you're telling yourself, because developers can design if they know some of the rules of the game. And he goes on about many different things here, but Billy Hollis is just an absolute fantastic speaker. There's a lot of very subtle humor in here, and he's good at like the deadpan delivery of it all. So
yeah, that's good.
He's got stuff in here like this. It's absolutely hilarious, and Billy's just so calm and cool when he's talking over these slides, and these just
Billy's got that
really
charm because he's also got the accent going, that Southern American accent,
Yes,
and,
he does.
Not deep Southern, but it's kind of like having it's like having a warm bath of knowledge poured over you. And yeah, he's definitely one of my favorite speakers.
And he's super nice in person too. I've had the opportunity to sit down, have dinner with him a few times.
Yeah, you want to hate
him,
but
nicest
you can't.
people. I couldn't. I don't know why you'd want to hate him, but you definitely couldn't.
No, because he's too smart. He's too smart. Like, it's just like, how do you get this smart?
It's kind of funny. Like the folks that I just picked in these 3 videos to share, they're all kind of that personality. Like they are just absolutely brilliant, and they probably have more knowledge in their pinky than I've learned in my entire life. And Perfect. They have no, they're humble as they come. They would never gloat about any of the things that they know, and they
100%.
take the time to share that knowledge with the community, and they frankly dumb it down for people like me so I can understand it. So Steve Sanderson and Billy Hollis, they're absolutely wonderful. So make sure you check out these videos. And I think that was accidentally linked from before, and so was that. So that was all of our links, John. That was all of them. And again, if you follow me on LinkedIn, I've got that in the newsletter. You can catch those videos in there. Make sure you do what I do. Just go into YouTube and hit watch later, make a little queue, and then when you get some downtime, throw those on. I think you'll, if you're a developer of any sorts, you'll probably enjoy those. And nice. That does it for us today, John. That's another Eat Sleep Code, my friend. We've only got a couple more left for this year.
Yes.
We've got probably 3 left. I'm going on a limb here. December 22nd is probably going to be a holiday week for the both of us. So we will see if we get another 2 or 3 shows here this year. But it has been nice chatting with all of you. Rocket Man, thanks for chiming in on chat. And John, it's great seeing you again. And I'll talk to you next week.